accidentally just stepped in a dirty diaper someone dumped on the side of the road. Thankfully, I'm about to walk through this river. Hey everyone, today we are here to check out some culvert pipes that we unclogged about 16 months or so back. Trees didn't have leaves, but it was last spring. It's now towards the end of July 2022. Wow, the drought is doing a lot. Last time I came here, I had trouble getting across this river in my big high boots. This whole beach was underwater. So I'm going across the more swift moving part. It's not as deep. This year, 2022, is expected to be the biggest drought New England's had on recorded history. The old record was 2020. 2021 was a decent year for rain, not the worst. This year, we've had a couple torrential downpours, but it lasts like 10 seconds. That doesn't help. This river is so slow moving. It's usually like whitewater rapids. But you see this right here, this gigantic sandbar. It's basically not a sandbar, a big rock bar. That's coming from a little stream, and it looks like it has completely dried up unless it's trickling under those rocks. But about 50 feet up is a CSX train line where they have, I believe, 4 or 5 gigantic iron culverts that are probably from the 1800s. Very good things. They'll probably be around for close to another century or even more. We're gonna go see how they're doing. So, well, these rocks are very slippery. Last time we came here, every single one was completely blocked. We were able to get 2 of them completely open and operating. The rest were going to be just too difficult, so we did report that to CSX. I've reported many culverts to CSX in the past. They've never come out and done it. They make it difficult. They don't want you reporting their failing infrastructure. You have to email them, and they make it so difficult. It has to be so technical. They usually reply saying, oh, we can't do, or some other kind of junk. See? I still have a bunch here. Last time I had to be very careful. I had to go see where the water's like a lot of rapids very fast because that's where it's more shallow. Couldn't even get across there. It's a good area, I guess, maybe for fishing. I just parked at a place where they actually have a sign for fishermen. So last time we were here, a good amount of these rocks were underwater. You can see here, typically in the summer, the water would be right up snug with the grass, so we're about a foot lower than normal. And before we actually go to look at the culverts, check out what we have here. This is a gigantic load of beaver debris. See this stuff here? There's countless beaver chewed sticks. Even beaver chewed knotweed. So, what do you guys think? The beaver's up to something here? Or did somebody destroy a beaver dam upstream and it all got kind of left right here on the bank because the river's so low? Wow. This water's actually warm. Very, very warm. This would be a fantastic place to be going swimming. Before we actually go on that culvert, I just got so sidetracked. There's definitely a culvert here in the train tracks if I follow that up. And a possible culvert over here. It's unbelievable how low the water is. It looks like this river only got a little bit of water left. I don't expect it to completely dry up, but it's possible. No, that is not a culvert. There's just a bunch of square rocks. So, let's make our way up this first channel. Just to show how invasive knotweed is, this, to me, looks like it was cut by beavers. You see it floats down here? It starts growing. It roots itself. It'll take over this woods. It already has, basically. Knotweed here, kind of scraggly, because it's not in full sun, but it takes over the forest floor typically, snuffing out any seedlings. So when the mature trees eventually die, you have nothing but knotweed. and the forest ecosystem's just about dead. So I can tell here, this doesn't look like it's flowed much at all over the past summer. And yes, we're definitely going to be coming up to some type of culvert pipe here. We can see if there's any sort of blockage here. Then we can do an update that some people have been asking about on the bunch of steel culverts. So right here, looks like a concrete culvert with a bunch of junk in it. There's also a few fish here in this pool, which is kind of sad. Look, there is a little bit of flow here, but you see it obviously goes underground where it dries up. It's sad, but at the same time, it's natural. So what that basically means is those fish are now food for a raccoon. When I was little, I used to spend so much time saving animals like that when I realized it's literally food that I'm taking away from them. So the mistake here with the railroad company is it looks like these rocks used to be up here on the bank, but they've all just fell in. Yeah, there's no way we can move that. Doesn't look like it's causing a major problem. Ooh, what was that? Frog? But it looks like the engineer who was on this job is an idiot. Let me show you why. Look how small this pipe is. To me, that looks like maybe a 3-foot diameter pipe. I could comfortably walk through that if its entire clearance was open. Well, not comfortably, but decently. Look inside. It looks like there's only a couple sections of that reinforced concrete pipe. And then it opens up into a gigantic square box culvert that's probably as old as the railroad. So what happened in this area was, over the years, they keep adding more and more ballast. The higher they make it, the wider the platform has to be. The wider the platform has to be, they had to add a section of culvert, but it looks like the railroad company was cheap. So come look what we have. All right, let's find a way in there. It looks like the railroad company was in here recently. Looks like an excavator was in here digging. See this? Yeah, this is very recent. An excavator had to have dug this out in the past year. But that stuff I see on the other end, that's been there a while. They didn't even check the other end. Right here, I can tell by the ground, this thing floods. Before I even came down in the pit, I could see it sometimes floods over the train tracks. I'll show the debris I was noticing. But just take a look at this beautiful culvert, probably built over 100 years ago. It's got this retaining wall made out of old railroad ties. That's a great idea. That's going to need replacing sometime soon. Not in the worst condition, but creosote-soaked ties, they hold up forever. Unfortunately, creosote has unknown effects on the environment. Whoa! Got a big cave spider friend here in the entrance. But let me zoom down and show you guys what I was talking about. When you get down inside the culvert, it's not a great shot on the camera, but there's a severe bottleneck going into that tiny pipe, and it's causing a bunch of debris to get stuck. So there's a pretty big clog of giant logs in there that they're gonna have to be pulled out with heavy machinery, I'm thinking. Because if all this debris and silt wasn't here, I believe that culvert is much deeper than you see. Now you see that's probably a 4-foot entrance. I'd imagine it's at least 5 feet tall if it was properly dug out. But they have it bottlenecking into a 3-foot pipe, so obviously that's going to cause a clog. Because this terrain here, I can tell, they get flash floods. See all this debris here, the way it's strewed up here, all this junk. I believe this area is flooded from that being plugged. I can tell machinery's been in here not too long ago, and they had to take out, it looks like, enough dirt to probably fill 2 triaxle trucks. All right, we're not going to walk down the train tracks, even though it's probably only a few feet. Nope, we will. Yep, this is the culvert with the 5. Yes, it is. Wow. Just about dried up. But, guys, I'm gonna have to look at old footage. But you see all these things, how they're like recently roughed up, they've been handled with excavators and rock crushers. CSX, I think, did come out here. They added a bunch of new retaining rock, probably more ballast. But the culverts still look like they're in junk shape. Back when I was unclogging this, the plunge pool was much deeper. They may have actually filled that in to stop erosion, but they haven't worked on the wall yet. Maybe they do have plans. Maybe they actually did come out here. Oh, wow. They cleared this area. There was a lot of plant growth here. But look how stupid this is. See this wall of rocks? If I stepped here, I'd literally create a landslide and fall down there. Yep, if I tried to go down there, I would slip. But what I'm starting to see now is when this thing gets plugged, it backs up here, goes down the drainage ditch to that culvert that's literally right there. And it plugs that too. It overwhelms it. So it looks like, let me look and confirm. Yes. Big props on CSX. They got rid of the clog. Fantastic. Great job. Wow. That's a lot. The culverts aren't in the worst condition, but they do need attention at some point. You see the retaining wall on the bottom's pretty eroded. I do believe a good amount of water is able to go between the pipes, which will undermine the railroad eventually with a sinkhole. Oh, but I unclogged those 2 pipes. There was a massive pile of junk here. I'll link that video in the description. I'm so happy CSX actually did this. But look at the debris upstream. That'll be down here the next big rainstorm, blocking them again. It's an ongoing battle. But I could tell what I was pulling out of there was there a very long time. Next time this river's ready to rage, and you can tell this thing has many feet of water, probably over my head, blasting through here to be able to put debris this high up. All this junk will eventually break free and be in the end of those culvert pipes. All right. I'm happy to see CSX did something, because my past experience with them, they don't. But this also appears like that may have been a problem with whatever CSX office is closest to Palmer, Massachusetts. That's whoever was in that area when I Googled them. It might be the same office. Who knows? Maybe it was just an angry operator who didn't want to deal with me, just making the train company look bad. Anyways, they did their job. They did good. So, yeah, looking good. You see what I mean? Between the culvert pipes, eventually this will undermine. I'm sure some trickling is getting through all the way, but you see that only goes in about 3 feet. Look at the thickness of this metal. That will be here another century, but this won't. This needs some patchwork. But we can definitely do a little bit of preventative maintenance here. Definitely we can do a little bit of preventative maintenance here. Any little bit helps in the long term. This is actually heavier than it looks. I'm going to try to swing it up. Woo! actually got it up there. Next moderate rainstorm, it'll just push that down on its natural path. All right, that was good. The damage doesn't actually look as bad now, but they're better get on it. It is so hot and humid out today. Today was 95 with oppressive humidity. The heat dex, at least earlier, was supposedly like 105. Not used to this. Check it out. Got a little bit of water in here. Groundwater, or would you say that's just condensation from it being super cold? It looks like condensation's dripping down in here. You see, typically there's a little bit of flow. These things were blasting pretty hard last time I was out here. The way this is wedged in here, junk could get stuck against that. Just give it a little flip out of here, or easier to, here. Yeah, I can tell the railroad here, they either filled in the plunge pool, because I mentioned this would be an awesome place to go swimming on a hot day in my last video. No more. This couldn't fill up with more than 1.5 feet of water. Perfect timing, wow! They probably refaced the front, maybe, but those are probably original with the tracks. And they'll probably be here years in the future. Look how crystal clear the water is in the pool and the end. I don't know if this is intentional or if there's a clog, but you see how it's all in this one end? So what do you guys think? The train company put a lot more retaining wall erosion control blocks. Do you think they filled this in? Or do you think they unclogged it when it was in fairly high flow? Like, there was a lot of rocks built up behind that dam, you know, that eroded from further up. See this big pile here? That's just debris from the last flood. Nothing to do with any creatures. See, completely plugged, completely plugged, completely plugged, and that one got an opening there. Maybe they all just passed through. What are those things hanging there? Those tiny little balls with threads. Does anyone know what they are? Yeah, this is interesting. So happy they got these things back open. Because you see, this one right here, see that was rocks? It's like towering a few feet above the culvert entrance. Those will all be able to flow through the pipe unless another blockage happens first. Because when these things get blasting, it'll take rocks like that. Water is extremely powerful. Yeah. Happy about this. Very happy about this. You see, there is still a tiny amount of trickle, which is so far underground, it's just bypassing the pipes. But as you saw, by the time I get out to the actual river, this will find itself back underground. That, this stream bed here, and especially up there, it looks like the kind of area that would flash flood off the mountain. Yes, it does. Because you see, this takes a lot of pressure to be able to make these mounds. Because from the riverbed here, that's a good 4 foot elevation. Yeah, take a look at this. It's coming out to a big point, and it's a good 4 feet right here coming down into the hill. And take a look at this tree here that the river shoved. And that's a perfect example for what I just explained by the culvert. Look at the amount of rock that's up against this tree. If you look from this side, that's a good 2 feet of rocks being held back behind this. Just because the log was here, a bunch of sticks got stuck, large rocks, and allowed a whole sandbar to just form behind it. Awesome. Good job on CSX. They even unclogged that culvert there that I didn't notice last time, that first one we went to look at. Now, we're heading further up here to this trestle. That's a railroad access bridge for vehicles. And a few 2x4s. Those looks still decently good. Right now we're about to go to another culvert. So they basically have a bunch of culverts here right next to each other. They didn't want to impede the natural stream flow, I guess. That's why they didn't force them all together into one, I suppose. The first one down there looks like it just handles drainage ditch or overflow of those other 4 culverts when there's a massive flood. And a couple years back, they did a lot of work here fixing the foundations. You see, they didn't even take down their temporary railings. That's probably where those 2x4s are from. Last flood probably broke them free. So this right here, big tall boots are great for ticks, especially since they're a light tan. Be able to see them crawling. Okay, it's wet here. That's a good sign. This stream bed is wet. This one was in pretty bad condition. I wonder if they did anything here. Does anyone in the comments know what type of plant is this? It kind of looks like a bamboo. It's really cool. Is that native or an invasive species? I don't see it many places, so it can't be that invasive, but it's really cool. Look at this pool. Got a lot of water skimmers in here. I would much more prefer water skimmers over mosquitoes. Water skimmers will actually eat the mosquito. You saw that whole railroad tie down there on the edge of the river? It must have floated from somewhere nearby. Look at this tree. Got a 2x4 jammed under it, and then that'll cause a wall of rocks. If it ever gets bad enough. Wow! The train company even dug this one out. That is a old wood culvert made out of train ties. The end of it's kind of messed up from the roots of these nearby trees. But let's see what we got inside. Pretty slippery. Oh man, that is cool. That's fantastic. Because I remember I went in this culvert a little ways just to see what was up with it. And yeah, I only went in a little ways because it got so uncomfortably cramped in there. Because you see, just like the first culvert I showed you, as the railway needed to be widened for extra height, you see they made the end of the culvert with railroad ties. If I zoom on in there, the railroad ties only go in for about maybe 20 feet, then it turns to a beautiful granite box culvert. Granite box culverts will last centuries unless the ground shifts and messes them up. I just tripped badly going through that pool. I jumped right into the water not knowing there was a slippery rock underneath the murkiness. Goodness, it's a part of a telegraph insulator. Nice blue glass. It's not even sharp on the edges. I imagine a lot of water over the years has been passing it or grinding it down. Water, grinding it down, especially with eroding sand, just like the ocean. Not even sharp. It's pretty cool. Yeah, it is. What's this guy up to? Crossing back across the river, which is very slippery. It's much more shallow right here. Very slippery. I hope today's video was interesting, everybody. Thanks for watching, and have a great day. Thank you, CSX, for responding to my message by the amount of new growth in the excavated areas. It looks like you guys responded within months, because I can tell that excavation wasn't done this year. It would have been done last summer after my spring report.